Hi everyone, and welcome to my show, BodyTrust 25 months. Yes. And the subject for today is Chinese herbology for beginners. And I love Chinese herbology. This is why I'm doing this. I practiced it for decades. And it is really the secret weapon against disease for practitioners of Chinese medicine. And this includes everybody who calls himself a licensed acupuncturist, at least in the state of California. Because licensed acupuncturists not just put needles in people, they are using herbs. They have been well trained in herbology. In fact, there's an old Chinese saying, the superior physician uses two hands. And he was referring to acupuncture and herbology. Now the difference between the two, of course, they do many of the similar things. Acupuncture is really best for relieving pain because it moves qi, and it's wonderful at doing that, oh my gosh. But for internal, and it can work on internal problems, but really for internal problems, you need to put something internal, and that is Chinese herbs, which you take through the mouth, and they go deep inside, and they do wondrous things inside. Yes, working on all kinds of diseases and internal problems, all kinds of stuff. We're going to go through that. I'll take you through the wondrous world of Chinese herbs. But keep in mind that when you put something inside of somebody, you better know what you're doing. That means you better have a good diagnosis. Your diagnosis is the key, and they used to say in China that the hero is not the doctor who gives the herbs. The hero is the doctor who diagnoses, because your treatment must be based on your diagnosis. This is true in all medical systems. So diagnosis is based on theory. So Western medicine, or emergency medicine, whatever you want to call it, has its own theory. And they diagnose before they prescribe. They have to. It's a law, I think. Well, we do the same thing. In order to diagnose, we have to take a whole lot of information. And then we have to arrange it according to our theory. So you got to learn theory to do Chinese herbology. You can't just take, see, we don't just take one herb and give it to you and say, here, take this the rest of your life. That's not Chinese herbology at all. I mean, you can do that, but that's not what we're going to do generally. We don't do that. We take a diagnosis and then develop a treatment plan. We want to do this, 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 and this for this person in order to balance their yin and yang and make them healthy. So in other words, we're going to need about maybe 12 herbs, maybe 8, 12 herbs. And they're going to do this, and some are going to do this, and some are going to do this, and some are going to do that. And they all work together. Now that patient, or you may change after a week. You take that 7 days a week, you come back in a week, and things are better, but there's still a little, and it's a little different. So that's when we, the herbalist, will change that formula. We'll say, oh, we have a new diagnosis, right? When the diagnosis changes, the formula changes. You see, so, and it's not something that you give somebody for the rest of your life. Here, take this formula for the rest of your life. No, that's just maintaining the disease, which is what emergency medicine does when it tries to treat general health problems. So we don't go that way. The best of us don't do that. We want to get rid of a problem so it doesn't come back, and that's what a cure is. So Chinese herbs are very powerful, but they're mild compared to pharmaceuticals. See, pharmaceuticals are drastic because they're emergency. They're based on emergency theory. They have to get the job done now. And there's side effects for that because nature works, well, smoothly and calmly and gradually. So this is what herbs do. Herbs are taken from nature, so it's not just a single ingredient inside. It's a primary ingredient, an active ingredient or active ingredients, and then a lot of buffer ingredients that tend to moderate that. And when Western medicine uses herbs, what they do is they extract the single active ingredient and then use that in their emergency theoretical model. But it's not herbs. It's not the herb anymore. You see what I mean? That's the difference. So Chinese herbology or herbs are safe for that reason because they have a lot of buffers in them and they're balanced, and we give them to a formula that balances everything. Shouldn't be any side effects. If there are, well then the diagnosis was wrong. If there's any problems, the diagnosis was a little off or maybe drastically off. If it was drastically off, you probably won't be hurt. You just maybe have diarrhea for a day or two, which is inconvenient, right? But it's not gonna damage you like herbs will, or like drugs will when they're based on a false diagnosis or whatever. Or they're just their general side effects can be very hazardous, like opioids, for example. So you got to know theory. That's why you need to buy my book. No, this is not just a plug for my book, but it will help. It's got all that basic theory, and it's called Chinese Medicine for the Modern World, and it comes out February 8th. You can pre-order it now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Yeah, it's like 20 bucks. It's a thick paperback. It's going to introduce to the world the theory and language of Chinese medicine, which you need for herbology. You've got to have that. Acupuncturist, yeah, it helps. But for herbologists, for herbalists, you've got to have that. So, and then it gives, of course, it introduces wellness coaching as the third branch of Chinese medicine. That's what we need in the modern world. We need to stop learning how to worry and hurry and overeat so we can be healthy. That just goes right along with herbology. So, by the way, you don't need a license to practice herbology. You can be an herbalist and you can be a wellness coach like me. You don't need a license for that either. You can combine the two for very effective, no license health practitioner. Yeah, and help a lot of people. So you can make a living doing that. Anyway, I used to play with a chemistry set when I was a kid. So I was making all kinds of stuff, you know, and doing little magic shows for the neighborhood kids. And I love just having lots of little bottles and stuff and making little decoctions and things like that, you know. So when I discovered Chinese medicine at Emperor's College in Santa Monica, acupuncture and herbs, and I said, herbs? Really? You get to mix all kinds of stuff into formulas, and oh, that sounds great. I fell in love immediately with herbology, except our first teacher required us to memorize a hideous amount of information. They all complain. All licensed acupuncturists, all students complain about this amount of information you have to memorize. For every herb, 365 herbs, and you got to memorize a ton of information for each one. So I developed a little system for memorizing. I write a story for every herb that contains all the information on the state board exam and in the classes. And I put that into my first book called The Workbook of Chinese Herbs. I sold a lot of those after I graduated. I made a little book, self-published. Sold a lot of them to bookstores around the country for several years, and I just kind of lost interest, whatever. But it's still available on my website if you want it. But remember, it's just for memorizing. It's not explaining anything. There are lots of books that explain it, and I'll show you one in a minute. I'll show you two of them. But so what you have to memorize, let me go through that a little bit. First of all, there's 3 names for every herb. For every individual herb, there's 3 names that we're familiar with. Right? There's the Chinese name, which is written. Chinese is a written language. Did you know that? Yeah. And there's different dialects of Chinese. There's the spoken languages. So there's also the name in Mandarin, which is in Romanized letters, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F, you know, and that's called pinyin. And then there's the Latin pharmaceutical. We use that name to communicate with medical doctors and chiropractors and people that come from a kind of Western orientation, right? So it has 3 names. When I was teaching herbology, at first I required that you know 2 of those 3 names. Oh, it's a big storm of protest. Big protest. Went to the dean and everything. So I said, okay, I'll make it extra credit. Students, God. You know. But anyway, so now there's 27 groups of herbs, of Chinese herbs. The group is like the chief function. The chief function. It's a clear damp, right? It moves qi. It warms blood, on and on. We'll go through those in a later episode, I think. Very fun and instructive, but anyway. So you have to know the main group. See, there's a shorthand for memorizing these herbs. And it's the name, the taste, temperature, entering meridians, contraindications, and the visual ID. You have to know all that to get your license in Chinese medicine and to pass the classes and everything. So 27 groups, the 6 flavors, right? Taste, right? Taste, temperature. The 6 tastes are bitter, sour, sweet, pungent, salty, and bland. And each, when we learn that each of these flavors has a different function, it's fascinating, right? Bitter, right? But if you have an infection, you like bitter. Or some people just like bitter. I like bitter because I tend to have damp heat, tend to move in the direction of damp heat. And bitter attacks damp heat and attacks toxic heat and attacks bacterial infections and things like that. Attacks them and drains them down and out, mostly through the urine. So they come right out through the urine. So wonderful taste for herbs. And our antibiotic herbs, our strongest antibiotics, are so bitter. Oh my God, they'll kill you if you make a tea out of it and drink it. We have 3 of them that are really bad, called the 3 yellows. Sour holds on to qi and blood, so it will astringe things that you need. Right? If you're sweating too much, it'll hold that in. Sweet strengthens, but of course, too much of anything is going to weaken. So too much sweet will cause dampness, and we don't like that. So in moderation, everything in moderation. Pungent creates sweating, pushes things up and out. Very useful for the beginning of colds. Salty softens hardenings and lumps and tumors and things like that. Yeah, we like that. It also strengthens kidney. And bland moves water out. The bland taste, so we have herbs that move water out. So temperature, well, you got warm and cool and hot and cold and neutral. So I mean, if you're treating a heat condition, you want cool herbs, right? Or cold herbs. If you're treating a heat condition, if you're treating a cold condition, you want hot herbs. That's all very important. And then the entering meridians, and there are 12 entering meridians. 6 of them, by the way, start on the foot and 6 on the hand. And I love Chinese medicine, the way they've got the number thing really down. I mean, the Chinese really have the number thing down, right? So, for example, if it enters liver, well, then gee, this could be something that drains liver heat or liver fire. Or it could be working on liver qi stagnation, or liver damp heat, or gallbladder damp heat, gallstones maybe, something, liver blood deficiency. So it's going to be liver gallbladder. They're related. Those 2 channels and organs, You have to know channel and organ theory to make sense of this, and of course that's described in my book, Channel and Organ Theory, as well as yin and yang, 8 principles, 5 substances, 5 elements, and the 12 organs and main channels. And see how they love numbers. They're so good at that. Anyway, and then got to know the contraindications. Well, not too many, and they're not serious, but certain herbs don't combine well with each other, or in certain conditions you want to make sure you don't include anything in the formula that's going to that is contraindicated, right? And then you have to visually ID it. They used to require that on the state road exam when I was taking it, but not anymore. Too much controversy. Well, you can cut herbs in so many different ways, and you can process it in so many different ways that it's really hard. But in your school, you have a raw herb pharmacy, and you have to be able to identify those because you're making formulas for patients. The doctor gives you an order, or your intern gives you an order for a formula. You're working in the pharmacy for a while, right, as an intern. And you gotta be able to recognize herbs. Oh, that's the wrong herb. You can't take that out. Now, some people say, well, is there a conflict with pharmaceuticals? Generally not, because pharmaceuticals, remember, are heavy-handed. That's emergency medicine, right? They go in, they get a job done, boom, so they're working against nature. And if nature says you have to die, well, we don't accept that. No, we have to work against nature. If nature says, well, I got cancer, I'm going to kill you. No, we don't accept that. We have to work against nature. So, drugs, surgery, very helpful for emergencies. But herbs work with nature, right? So herbs are about balancing you. Herbology, an herbal formula is there to help your body do what it naturally wants to do anyway. And it naturally wants to cure itself. It naturally wants to heal itself. So we help it in that direction. So really they're going, on different levels, kind of, with kind of the same result, but they rarely interact. But you can't tell medical doctors that, because number one, they know everything, and number two, they know nothing about herbology. And that reminds me, drug companies really hate herbalists. They really hate us because, well, we're taking their place. And actually, herbology is far more suited for healthcare than drugs. Drugs are suited for emergency care and heroic medicine, not suited for healthcare. They're too drastic. It's the quick fix mentality. They're killing people. They're killing. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. Let me show you a great book. Chinese Herbal Patent Formulas by Jake Fredkin. A Practical Guide. This never goes out of print. Jake is a friend of mine. He lives in Colorado. You can order his book from him online or in any bookstore. It won't look like this. It's a different cover. This is an old book. But anyway, this has all kinds of patent formulas. Now, a patent formula is something that's already been made up. So it's usually a classical formula that has been made into pill form or tablet form. Sometimes drops or liquid, whatever, but it's pre-made. So it's not our standard, remake that formula every week when the patient comes in. It's not with raw herbs or individual herbs. It's already made. So, but they can be very effective. And I used to have a whole shelf of these things. Now I keep some around. Well, for patients, but also some in your medicine cabinet. Some you need to keep around. I'm going to show you some of these right now that I recommend that you look up if you're interested. First one is Jiawei Xiaoyao, also called Relax Plus. Let me see if we can get it. Nah, it's not focused, but anyway. These you can get anywhere. This treats liver qi stagnation and internal heat, heart heat, that is the cause of people overeating. This will actually calm you down and cool your heat. It will move your qi, so it all unstuck like this, right? And it cools your heat, so you're not flipping out. I remember, and you take 8 of these 3 times a day. Why 8? Why not 1? Because these are mild. Herbs are mild. Don't forget, they're mild. They're bulky. So they have a lot of semi-active and non-active ingredients in here to buffer it, right? So I had a woman, when I gave this to her, boy, was she a nervous wreck, right? And then she called me that night and said, "You didn't tell me this was going to calm me down." I'm sorry, didn't I say that? I usually don't tell people what it's going to do because I want them to find out, right? Just, yeah, you should have told me this was going to calm me down. Shame on you. I don't think it worked, baby. No, I didn't say that. Anyway, these are really good. I buy these by the case, anyway. And then there is a Bojimi tea. Yeah, gotta love it. Now this is sold as a weight loss tea, and it will reduce your fat cells, but it goes after garbage in your body, which enlarged fat cells, let's face it, it's garbage. It's garbage food that you keep eating, you overeat, you just pile it on. Also impacted fecal matter, it cleans out your intestines. Yeah. And helps your body process the food so it doesn't weaken it. Some of these teas weaken your intestines, and so you have diarrhea and, oh yeah, I'm losing weight. Wrong. Or it makes you diurese, urinate too much and lose electrolytes and minerals. That's wrong too. So this does not do that. That's why I use this. It's really effective. You can buy this online. Any Chinatown or place that sells Chinese herbs will have these generally that I'm showing you. So this is good stuff. Tea bags in here. 1 tea bag a day. Yum. Anyway, it tastes pretty good too. The main ingredient is white tea, which is the least caffeine, and then about 6 or 8 Chinese herbs that help your body process old stuff like cholesterol. This has been shown to reduce cholesterol too. If you have high cholesterol, drink this for a month and then go back and test it again. You'll find it has dropped. And they'll go, "Oh, what did you do?" And of course you won't say Chinese herbs. You say, "Oh, I don't know." You know what I'm mad at you, dude? Here is Lead-On tablets. Yay, Lead-On. See Lead-On? I can't tell you how many gallbladders I have saved. with this lovely little formula. You take this for a month, go back, and they go, where'd those gallstones go? How come you lost those gallstones? Oh, I don't know. I think it was, I think the gods were on my side that month. Yeah. Anyway, so really good stuff. Not too expensive. Take it for a month. It dissolves the gallstones. We also have a formula called Passwan. I don't know where they came up with that name, right? That helps with urinary stones. It dissolves urinary stones, called Passwan. Oh, Passwan. Pass 2, please. Anyway, here is Yin Chow. Yin Chow 2-pin. This is great stuff. If you're getting a cold, the first day or two, when you're still on the outside, you take 4 of these, go to bed, sweat, take 4 more in the middle of the night, sweat some more. You won't have it in the morning. It'll be gone. Magic stuff. Magic. Because it helps you sweat. It's also antibiotic. So it goes after the virus, goes after the bacteria that are coming along inside with the virus, and sweats it out. So actually you physically push it right out of your body. This is great stuff. If you wait too long and get some of the bronchioles, it's too late. Don't use these. It'll spread it around. You don't want that. So first couple of days. Yin Chow, famous, very famous. You can get it everywhere. And pill curing, also famous. Really great for stomach flu, but also for any kind of stomach upset. You eat too much, overeating, whatever. You have this in your medicine cabinet also. Just keep it around. These are also little individual tubes with little tiny red pills in them, and you take a whole, you know how you take pills, a whole bunch of pills? You put them on your tongue, lean your head back, put a drink of water, and then just open the sluice gate, and it goes, shh, the water sits on top, and it just goes, shh, and push it right down. Anyway, there is pill curing. Love it. Here's another one in your medicine cabinet. Chuan Xin Lian. Chuan Xin Lian. Good for any kind of bacterial infection. This has like 2 of those 3 yellows I mentioned. It's a bitter formula, but you don't taste it because it's sugar coated or something. But anyway, yeah, you take 4 of those every 4 hours, and you can knock out a lot of bacterial infections anywhere, in the sinuses, in the gut, in the wherever. This is good for general bacterial infection. Toxic heat. Toxic heat. Okay. And the last one I want to mention is Tianqi powder. Tianqi powder, see, I haven't opened this yet, but it's really good to stop bleeding, and it's magic. They can't figure out, Western medicine can't figure out how this works. It doesn't cause clotting, which a lot of hemostats will do. It can be dangerous to stop bleeding, but this one doesn't. You sprinkle it on, put it in your glove compartment. If there's an accident, rush out there, sprinkle it on the bleeding wound, and then press it with a clean cloth, and just hold it there and wait till the emergency arrives. It'll stop it. This will also stop internal bleeding. If you have internal bleeding, like, get to a doctor, by the way, an MD, and get it checked out. But if you're really still bleeding, take this internally and it will stop it. It's wonderful stuff. Anyway, that's Tianqi powder. So I just want to mention one more thing. Yeah, see, I use extracts of these raw herbs. I don't use the raw herbs because Americans don't really want to boil them. They don't want to taste it and anything. So I use the from Quality Herb. It's not freeze-dried, but it's spin-dried. They boil it and then they spin-dry it and they collect it, and then it's crystal powder and it dissolves in water. And it's very useful. I'll make up a whole formula for you. First we'll talk over the phone. I'll do a diagnosis, or in person, right? Video phone or in person. I'll do a diagnosis, and then I'll get back with you and I'll put that together. I'll call Quality Herb, they do it there, and then they send it to you. They bill you. Whatever. So, last thing is Bensky, wonderful book. If you're really serious, get it. It's thick, it's heavy, it's never out of print. It's the Bible. It's what all the tests and all the tests are based on this. We just call it Bensky, but it's Materia Medica. Bensky's the author. It came out in 87, 86, whatever. We were thrilled when it came out. So, next time if we do another episode, we're going to go into this book and talk about individual herbs and how wonderful they are, because they really are. Anyway, that's all. Thanks for watching. Bye.